Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first episode of the FVR podcast. The 15th season of Formula Virtual Racing has just gone underway. We had two cracking races. The first one, of course, being in Vegas. I had to decide that myself in the recap a while ago already. Spain was just last weekend, actually 2 days ago, and we had a cracking race there again with a late safety car. I'm here today with Kaan and Avesta. Hello, guys.
Hello, how are you?
I'm
Hello.
doing fine. Um, yeah, so let's just actually get started here and dive deep into the different things that we've seen in these two races. Kan, to begin with you, you were driving in the Las Vegas race. How did it go?
Not so great, let's say. In qualifying, I think it was just horrible. We talked on the previous episode how bad my qualies were, and it was not any different, but it was a better race than the qualifying. I just had a great start, but there was some chaos at the front end. I tried to avoid it and lost some time, and then it's Las Vegas, and when you lose the slipstream, it's just gone. And it was interesting with the new strategy, lots of expected also, but also unexpected things. So it was a decent start with P10. I'm not happy, but it's just the first race, so
Yeah, yeah, because we of course had the new strategy, or well, yeah, new strategy option being implemented, a two-stop mandatory thing that Evan has introduced to this season for the first time. Avesta, your race didn't go too well either in Las Vegas. What were the things that went wrong there? Because it looked like you had good pace, but you were just too much involved in the fight with the others.
Yeah, no, well, the only reason was because I was not home and didn't have my own rig. I was in my friend's place where he had a Logitech G29 wheel and pedals. And uh, yeah, I mean, just changing rigs, even if you change like a headset or something, it will take a while to get used to it. And when you jump to a completely new rig, I mean, going to back to the basics like the first wheels when you had. I mean, this is what happens, and especially in a very cold and traction sensitive track like Las Vegas, it's very hard to judge and practice much on a rig that you're basically not used to. Like you just jumping into a new car and expect to drive. But it's still, yeah, I mean, try to at least survive the race, but even that was quite impossible with the
Mm-hmm.
lack of practice and in the rig itself, and the setup was also very weird. I went like zero wings or something, which is very bad on traction. But it was still a very good race, and I think the best strategy was decided by Legend. Like he completely played really well the two mandatory pit stop, which is obviously a new format of racing that Evan introduced, which is quite fun in some ways, but it brings also a lack of inconsistency to the drivers and the strategies. But it's still fun, and at least we understood how it works. And I think Legend found out how that works a lot sooner than everyone else. But I think even Callum, if he like had a bit more pace, he could have challenged Legend for the win. But yeah,
Yeah, because we
he was
saw
unstoppable.
Yeah, because we saw Legend like in the last lap or so. He pitted. We were waiting for him. We were thinking, oh, has he forgot about this new, about the new strategy thing that has been introduced? But no, he pitted on the last lap, and I believe Callum, he got like a 3 second penalty that kind of ruined his chances there at the win. So, indeed, like you said, it's he kind of like figured it out before everyone else. I think in the second race in Spain, everyone caught up a little bit better. Um, just like people started figuring out what the main strategy was and what the main idea was behind this two-stop thing. Let's actually go to the Spain sprint race then, Avesta, because you didn't qualify that well. Of course, we talked to you earlier in the post-race interview. You said your qualifying lap for the sprint was actually your practice. Um, what was the
Yeah.
major difference between that lap and the qualifying lap you had after? Was there any different approach or?
Yeah, it was because at least I knew the breaking points because I drive no assist, so it's really hard to judge the breaking points because I mean TT has a different grip than quali, and one shot obviously has also a bit less
Hmm.
grip than, for example, short quali or full quali if you do Q1, Q2, Q3. So like even from turn one, I can understand that grip was very low. And then like in turn three, I expected the grip to be much slower, but it was way too high. So like I hit the grass, so quality didn't go well. So it was just like a catch up race in the sprint. But with the DRS games that Dylan were playing with Legend, it was just impossible to catch both of them. And uh, yeah, it was just the group was separated into three trains, like the top two, the top three, and top five, I think, or top six, and then the rest were at the back. But it was fun. It was more fun in the race than rather than the sprint because I think everyone was new to the format of one shot quality. It was really hard for all of us.
Do you
Yeah.
think you could have won the race if you started from a different position, or if you didn't have to fight with the guys behind?
Uh, well, I didn't practice much, so I wouldn't say yeah. Like my ego obviously wants to say yeah. I mean, we all want to win a race, even
Yeah, for
we all
sure.
think like we can win a race, yeah. But I don't know. It depends, especially in this game where DRS and ERS is like the main goat rather than the strategy and everything else. But to be fair, I think the best pace Callum had it. Like he really, really pushed the car amazingly. He did the amazing strategy and everything. But then like the late safety car, which was weird, caused caused
Hmm.
like in a weird way. Yeah, I think that ruined his race. But I don't think I was the fastest driver in that race, to be honest.
Yeah, because of course, talking about Callum, his first race was pretty good as well. He got second in that Vegas race and pretty much kept with Legend for the entirety of it. If it wasn't for Legend's alternative way of interpret, how do you say this? Interpret something. He decided to go on a different strategy there, pitting in the later section of this race. Um, Callum actually stayed with him for a long time, and he could follow the race pace of Legend. The same was kind of in Spain last weekend. Callum, of course, having a lot of pace, and then, like you said, I believe it was on lap 28 to 30. He was around 2 seconds ahead of you, which meant that if he kept hold for that for like 3 or 4 more laps, then he would have been a first-time race winner. If, of course, it hadn't been for that late safety car that came round. But
Yeah,
so far, it looks very promising for Callum. We were talking about him last season on the recap, and we were saying like, oh, he has these moments where he has really promising, well, it looks to be promising results, and then later on it ends to be quite dramatic. I think that Callum definitely has did a little step up on that, despite his
exactly.
unfortunate ways of these two races having being ended the way they did.
Mm-hmm.
Last season, we were talking about him being inconsistent, but having that pace. I think the first two races pretty much shows that he definitely improved because if you look at it, I think he got P2 in Vegas and P4 in Spain, which is a pretty good start considering that he always had a good qualifying position, but ended up in a crash or a small mistake in the race that cost him a lot. So if we can keep this up, I think it should be a good season for him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well.
and here's the thing about Callum. Like he started, I think 2 seasons ago. I think it was the Miami race or the Australia race
Mhm.
was his first time like actually racing because he bought a new wheel, like a new rig, and before I think that his last F1 game was F1 2020 or 2021. So he just like he was a GT7 driver mostly. So he
Mhm.
came back to F1 again, and he outqualified Luke and Tyler, I think, in his first races, which was quite impressive. Like he definitely has speed, but he needs the experience that me and Legend, for example, have, or even Yukon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it's really hard to like race even if you did 1,000 laps in TT. It's still hard without the experience.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's actually go to Luke Davies because he has had a we could say a ton of luck, but he has promised us what he told us last time out to keep the consistency. He's currently in third place, only 1 point behind Callum Birch, picking up a podium in both of the races. Khan, what did you think of his performance?
I think that's the Luke that we were used to seeing, because as long as we have Legend, we didn't expect him to be winning races immediately again. But I think it was P3 in both races for Luke, which are great. And last season, he even struggled to get on the podium on some races. So I think he started the season great, and if he can keep this up, he can maybe fight for the second in the championship or third. I don't know. It's difficult to say because there's lots of competition on the grid, but it's definitely a great start, I think.
Yeah, but in terms of like, yeah, you have of course had a great start, but if we look at the race in Spain, he couldn't really keep up with the pace. He said it himself as well. He was close to nowhere, he said. I believe you were with us on that one, Avesta, as well, on Saturday. Um, in terms of like his pace, is there anything he needs to do on it right now, or does he need to just keep his consistency and see where that brings him?
I think Luke was never the fastest guy on track, so he even the championships he won, it was, I think, more than the pace, it was his consistency that won him. So of course it would be good for him to improve his pace to if he wants to fight for the championship. But if it comes at the cost of being inconsistent, I think it's just better for him to keep it consistent and wait for a mistake from Legend or Avesta, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. How do you look at that, Avesta?
Yeah, I agree with Khan. Like, I mean, some races he definitely did have the pace and props, and it mostly even depends on the game. To be fair, game and the
Mm-hmm.
track. Like for example, some tracks I remember, I think it was Saudi or Imola. Like he definitely did have paces there. I don't know, maybe it suits him more. I mean, every driver has a track that suits him more. For example, I don't know, Legend is Monaco or I am Miami, for example.
Yeah.
But it depends on the game and how much you practice, to be fair. But the last two games, Luke definitely had less pace than before. I mean, especially this game, 2024,
Yeah.
because we all know like it's a very, very weird game and the physics are not it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he needs to keep up or like build up and practice more because it's not that he can just be more consistent and uh, hope for the best. He also has to pick up the pace a bit. But I mean, we all do, to be honest, if you want to improve. So that's how it works.
Yeah, it's pretty much the only two that are actually on like the best pace at the moment are Legend and Callum, you could say.
Definitely, yeah. Callum is improving a lot, like really, really in a really rapid way. And Legend is Legend. He has the consistency and the experience to do it.
Yeah, and then of course as well we have Dylan McClemens, who had a bit of a mixed up start. Last season he started with a lot of P2s. This season he's got one P2 that is in the sprint race, so it doesn't really count as heavily as his previous P2s have, but he currently sits in fifth position on 21 points, only 1 point behind you, Avesta. How do you look at the battle with him throughout this season so far, and what do you expect to come?
I mean, I always have like very weak start to every season, and some races when I skip, I mean that's where my championship just goes away. But since it's just the second race and the championship, even though Legend won both of them, doesn't mean it will end. For example, the last season I think
Yeah,
I had last five races I
last
had
five
four wins.
races, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if depends on the track, it depends how much Dylan practices. I mean, Dylan's on PC now, so it will definitely suit and easier to drive. Even like me, I'm also on PC right now, and it's uh, easier to drive than on PlayStation a bit. So if he gets used to it and he gets the practice done, then he
And
definitely does have the pace also. Like before it was like a 3, 4, 5 driver train between, like, back in the season it was me, like Legend, then there was Lewis, then some other guys. But
Hmm.
now it's definitely shifting more to Callum, Dylan, me, Legend, and also some even people from the midfield field are also getting to our pace because DRS is really strong, so it's quite easy to stick to us.
Yeah, exactly. Names like Luke and Nathan, for example, and yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and Sam Fade as well. Talking about Sam Fade, he has actually got a promising start for this one. He currently has 16 points. Khan. We were talking about him last season with a lot of DNFs. This time he has completed all three of them.
Exactly. I think that's just an improvement alone. So because if his pace doesn't matter if he just DNFs every race, but I think did you say he finished P5 and P8, right?
Yep, P5 in Vegas and P8 in Spain, as well as a P7 in the sprint race.
Yeah, P7 in the sprint. I think yeah, it's a good result because that means points in all three races, including the sprint. And
Exactly.
with the guys in front, I think he currently leads the midfield with his current pace. And if he improves, I think we will see him fight for the podium and potentially for wins if he has some luck.
Yeah, a bit like Nathan Marriott had in season 13. Well, if we look at the Constructors' Championship, actually, he plays a big role in that as well. Of course, Aston Martin are in P1. It's just a legend story there. He has 53 points by himself, as Julius has not picked up any points, and I don't think he will pick up any more points. But we will get later into that later. Um, and then it's Williams and McLaren on 41 and 37 points. Yatin, he has had a good start as well. P9 he got in Vegas after that drag race to the line with Liam Hausman. And last weekend he got a P7 plus the fastest lap in the main race.
I think that's very impressive from Yatin because since the first season I've started racing in FVR, he was almost every time behind me, and I was not the fastest either. So he was barely fighting for points, and now seeing him consistently being on points, it's just two races, but still, I think it's a good pace. And in Vegas, I think he was in front of me, and after the pit stops, I just couldn't catch him. I was just pushing the whole race, but he had real pace. It was not slipstream because he was
Mm-hmm.
alone on track for most part. I think that's very impressive, and if he keeps this up, it will be a good season for him.
Yeah, well, in terms of that Constructors' Championship Avesta, I think you should have a word with your teammate because Tim Den Heijer, he's only picked up 1 point over these three races. How do you look forward to this Constructors' Championship Avesta? Because currently you're in fifth place behind Haas. You're on 23 points if we add your total of 22 points to that. Are you only focused on the drivers' championship, or do you think, oh, we should work together with Tim and see how we can do in the constructors' championship as well?
Yeah, I mean, Tim is a very good friend of mine. Like, we were always in parties together. I know him for many, many years now, and it's always fun, like, to
Mm-hmm.
win a constructors. Obviously, it's because it will be great. But firstly, to win a constructor, you obviously it will help if you win the drivers, no?
Yeah, and
So,
Tim
and
is, I mean, Tim is experienced with winning these constructors' championships. So,
yeah, he's also a very good teammate. I remember when he was, I think it was the last 2 seasons when he was with Legend and someone else. I don't remember exactly, but especially with
mm-hmm.
Legend,
Yeah,
like he was a really, really good defender and a good, like, strategies maker for Legend. For example, in Canada, I remember that race very, very vividly. Like, he defended me very well to defend Legend
yeah,
and for me not to catch him, but. Uh, I think I won that race. I'm not sure, but still, like, it made me 10 times harder with the teamwork that they two used to do. So now that he's my teammate and we share setups also, so it might hopefully,
mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah,
benefit or boost the fact that we can win the championship. But he was mostly unlucky. Like, he didn't. just lacked pace. He was mostly unlucky in the last two races.
Yeah.
But I mean, the tracks that are coming up are definitely going to suit us more.
Yeah, of course, next week we will be going to Zandvoort, and then after that will be Abu Dhabi with another sprint race. Can, if we look at your teammate for this season, he has had a decent start. He did not race in Spain, so we won't look at that one. But in Las Vegas, he got a P8 after that track race with Yatin to the line. Do you think you can beat him for the season, or?
I think it will be close with Liam because I know his pace
He has
is
made big
sometimes,
steps.
yeah, indeed, he can have extraordinary paces in some races, and then he can be just out of the points and up in the middle of nowhere some races. So it's difficult to predict, but I think it will be very close between me and him. But I also think that's something good for the Constructors' Championship because if if we are able to score consistent points, that's what matters in the constructors. Because especially in FVR, since we have the draft system, it's usually the teams are not very balanced in terms of pace. Like
Mm-hmm.
usually the one driver is very quick and the other is not so quick. So if we manage to find that balance and score double points in most races, I think it should be good for the constructors. And for the drivers' championship, I don't know why. It doesn't really matter to me, but hopefully as high as possible.
Yeah. Well, do you have any like certain goal for the end of the season? One that's of course a little bit realistic, and not like oh,
Well,
we want to win every race. Of course, everyone
yeah,
wants to win every race, but that's just
of
not how
course.
it goes unless you're of course legend. But
Well, my main goal for this season, I think, is to get back on the podium because in every single FER season, I managed to get on the podium, except the last season,
mm-hmm.
which wasn't great. So I think the first step would be to get back on the podium and um, manage to be best of the rest again, hopefully.
Yeah, well, now on to something that we spoke about a little bit earlier. We didn't really go into detail. We will go into detail now. Of course, it's that late safety car in Spain. It was caused in a little bit of a controversial way because Legend seemed to be nowhere for that race win, and somehow he did it. Anyone care to explain or give their thoughts on what happened here?
Avesta
Uh,
race, so I think he can start.
yeah, well, I mean, I've seen the incident, and everyone that I think I remember that we talked about I mean, it was like straight away slam dunk decision that yeah, he did it on purpose. Because
Mm-hmm.
uh, I mean, even if he said that he didn't, I mean, we cannot say if he's lying. I'm not even calling Zabra a liar, but the situation was just perfect for the Aston Martin team to that everything all of that happened. And I mean, if it's luck, then it's luck, but if it's not, then it's looked like
Mm-hmm.
what we all thought it was. Because I mean, he had understeer obviously, but he boxed many times and he spun many times, so like his race already was ruined since I think the first extra pit stop that he had to do. And I mean, the last pit stop he went, I think it was for Old Hards, which was a very weird decision. Like it was 8 or 9 lap Old Hards, so it was first of all that was already an odd decision, and second of all, like he understeered quite a lot while still holding the throttle. And when he lost the car on the gravel, he saved it on the track. But after he saved, kept putting the throttle on and steering into the wall. I don't know, maybe he was just trying to take avoiding action or not, but I cannot judge it. It's the steward's decision, which
Yeah.
it is what it is for him. It's quite unfortunate for him, but I mean, yeah, maybe at least he has now more time to practice, hopefully, for the next season and motivate him. Because even I was once banned, or I had many race bans. I think it was like the early seasons, I think, from my incident in Spa. Because I mean, I was quite an aggressive driver back in the day. aggressively dirty, let's say.
Yeah,
And from that, like it taught me a lot, to be honest. So maybe Zabra will take it also in a good direction.
let's hope so. Of course, we don't want to feed the drama more than it already has been. But yeah, for Zauber, of course, the main tip now is to just get practicing and to rejoin us next season and give his best performances there. Because last season, of course, he had a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel on several occasions. He had some good performances, of course. His overall gap to the race leader was still pretty high, but in terms of what he normally puts in and what he put in last season, there was a big step made, and I hope he can do that once again
Exactly.
once his race bans are over. So
It's
hopefully he'll
unfortunate
learn
that,
from that. That's what we can
yeah,
say.
hopefully, because especially when you're improving and scoring some points and then suddenly you get a race ban, I think it's very unfortunate, but it is what it is. I won't, as Avesta said, I won't call him a liar, but I think you just don't steer that much, especially when you're on the gravel.
Yeah, well, of course, that's the opinions we can give, and we can only listen to the opinions that others give. But he knows best what he did, and it's happened, so we can't really change much about it. Um, then to the final thing here, of course, next week we'll be going to Zandvoort. Both of you will hopefully be on the grid again. How do you guys look forward to that one? Is it a track that you favor a little bit, or?
In FVR, I think it was almost always good for me because I think it was season 13. I even Evan posted a clip of it. There was some chaos. I started P14 or P15, and then in just two corners, I found myself in P6. So it's a very unpredictable track, and you know the track is very tight. It's a fast track, and anything can happen. So I like tracks that are unpredictable, that can provide unpredictable races. And with this new strategy rule, I think it should be fun.
Yeah, well, Vesta, do you look forward to the battle with Legend again, and do you think you can top him this time, or?
I really, really love that track. Like,
It's his
I've
home race.
been, yeah, yeah. And I mean, last season, I mean, he won, but I was catching to him because, I mean, he just flew away and I had a really bad quality, I remember. So I had to do a catch-up game and overtake like a very, very big DRS train before getting into Legends hands. But I really love that track. I've been in every single league race. I've been very good there, and it's a very fast-paced track, which really, really suits my driving style. And I don't know, hopefully it rains, because if it does, then it will create as good as a race as it did in F1 Esports this week or last week, whatever that was, which was really fun. So very looking forward to it. And I have a question now for you. Who do you both think will win the race?
Well, of course, undeniably the favorite for this
Predictions.
race would, of course, be Legend, I think. But it's really all to play for. I think if there's one track that has a good chance at a safety car, I think that should be Sandford. I think we've seen that many times before as well. And if you, like you said, if it rains, it could be anyone's race, really. Of course, there's some
I think
favorites. It's gonna be you, Callum, Dylan. Those names, really, those will be at the front, of course. But yeah, to really pin down one person to win this one, uh, I wouldn't put any money on anyone to win this one, actually.
I think Legend looks to be the favorite, but knowing that as much as I remember, Aveste is good at this track, and you don't have any wins this season. So let's see if we come back to this podcast to listen after the race. But I think you'll win the race.
Yeah, we'll
We'll
come
see.
back to it in 2 weeks' time. To everyone at home, thank you for watching and listening once again to the first episode of the FVR podcast in season 15. Tune in on Saturday to watch the race live. It will be full of drama once again in Zandvoort, and after that will of course be the Abu Dhabi race with a sprint race as well. In 2 weeks time we will be back with another episode, so in the meantime just enjoy the races and we will see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching once again, and we will see you next time.
See you.